The river wound its way through the village like a silver thread, its surface catching the last light of day and scattering it in gentle ripples that whispered stories of distant mountains and ancient forests. Along its banks, the houses huddled close, their weathered wooden walls softened by the glow of lanterns being carefully prepared for the evening ahead. The air was filled with a quiet anticipation, as if the river itself held its breath, waiting for the ritual to begin. I stepped lightly on the narrow path that traced the water's edge, the soft rustling of leaves mingling with the occasional plash of water against stone. The village had settled into a rhythm that seemed timeless, as if the pulse of the river shaped every moment here. Children's laughter floated faintly from a nearby courtyard where lantern frames were being assembled, their fingers deft and sure despite the fading light. The scent of damp earth mixed with the sweet sharpness of night-blooming jasmine, wrapping the scene in a delicate embrace. Each evening as twilight deepened, the villagers gathered to ready their lanterns for the Floating Lantern Festival, a tradition older than any living memory, carried through generations like a whispered prayer. Tonight the river would become a ribbon of light, a moving tapestry woven from the flickering flames cradled in fragile paper boats. It was a time for letting go, for honoring what had passed and welcoming the promise of renewal. The lanterns themselves were simple yet exquisite, thin frames of bamboo holding squares of rice paper, translucent and fragile, almost glowing in the dimming light. Some bore delicate brushstrokes of ink, flowers, birds, or symbols of the seasons, each carefully chosen to carry personal meaning. Others were left plain, their gentle light speaking silently of hopes and memories unspoken. As I moved closer to the water, the village seemed to exhale. Doors were closed with a soft click, windows opened wide to catch the cool evening breeze, and the murmur of voices lowered to a reverent hush. The river's steady current murmured alongside, a constant companion in this ritual dance between earth, water, and sky. Lanterns rested on wooden tables waiting to be claimed, their candles nestled like tiny hearth fires. The sky above deepened to a rich indigo, the first stars beginning to twinkle as if drawn to the river's quiet glow. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of moss and the distant fragrance of pine. From a small garden near the shore, the faint sound of a flute drifted, its notes weaving through the night like a gentle invocation. It was a song of remembrance, sung by the land itself, inviting all who listened to join in the ancient rhythm. Near the riverbank, clusters of villagers gathered, their faces softly illuminated by lantern light. An elderly woman arranged her lantern carefully, her hands steady despite the years, while a young boy watched with wide eyes, clutching a tiny lantern shaped like a lotus flower. The sense of community was palpable, as if the river's flow brought not only water but a shared spirit that connected each soul to the next. The river's surface caught the flicker of lantern flames, scattering light like fallen stars drifting toward the horizon. Dragonflies skimmed low, their iridescent wings catching the glow, and a heron stood silently at the water's edge, its reflection shimmering alongside the lanterns. The scene was both serene and alive, a delicate balance between stillness and movement, between the ephemeral and the eternal. I found a quiet spot by an ancient willow whose branches dipped into the river like tendrils seeking the water's embrace. The tree's leaves whispered in the breeze, their rustle blending with the soft lapping of waves. Here time felt suspended, held gently between the past and the promise of night. The river's song was a lullaby, a reminder that all things flow onward, carrying with them the weight of memory and the lightness of hope. As lanterns were lit one by one, their flames flickered in the twilight, casting a warm glow that seemed to breathe life into the gathering shadows. The villagers moved with reverence, their movements slow and deliberate, as if honoring the fragile beauty of each glowing vessel. The river awaited, patient and steady, ready to carry these floating wishes toward a future unseen. The scent of incense curled through the air, mingling with the natural fragrances of the riverbank, creating an atmosphere thick with sacredness. Soft murmurs of prayer and gratitude rose from the crowd, blending with the occasional hum of a distant drum. It was a chorus of presence, a shared acknowledgement of the night's significance. Children's faces shone with wonder, their eyes reflecting the lantern's glow as they whispered among themselves about the stories carried by the river. One child spoke of the lanterns as boats for lost stars, another imagined them as messages to the ancestors, while a third simply smiled, feeling the magic without needing words. It was a moment untouched by time, where imagination and tradition intertwined seamlessly. The river, always flowing, seemed to pause in response, its surface smooth and inviting. The village's reflection shimmered in the water, a mosaic of light and shadow that held the essence of countless years. Each lantern was a promise, a prayer set afloat in the quiet night, a fragile beacon carried by the current toward an unknown but hopeful horizon. In this riverside village, the Floating Lantern Festival was more than a celebration. It was a living thread that wove together the people, the land, and the river itself. It was a reminder that even in stillness there is movement, and in letting go there is a gentle gathering. A collective breath held softly between the earth and sky, carried onward by the eternal flow of the river. The first time I came to the Floating Lantern Festival, the village felt like a secret whispered only to those who knew how to listen. The river's gentle murmur was a steady companion, guiding me through narrow lanes where lanterns in various stages of preparation glowed softly in the twilight. I carried a quiet curiosity, mingled with a reverence I hadn't anticipated, as if stepping into a world where time slowed and every breath mattered. An elder, her face lined with years yet alight with warmth, noticed my hesitant steps and approached with a gentle smile. She carried a lantern delicate and unadorned, made from thin bamboo and paper, its small candle tucked safely inside. "For you," she said, her voice a soft thread weaving between the murmurs of the gathering, "to join us in the letting go." I accepted it with hands that trembled slightly, feeling the fragile weight of the ritual in my grasp. The path to the riverbank stretched before me, bathed in the deepening hues of dusk. Shadows lengthened, and the village's lanterns multiplied like stars brought down to earth. Along the way I passed neighbors arranging their offerings, petals, notes, tiny tokens wrapped carefully inside the paper frames. The air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and the sweet earthiness of crushed herbs, grounding the moment in the tangible. As I neared the water, the river's surface reflected the fading light with a liquid shimmer, beckoning me closer. Villagers gathered in quiet clusters, their faces illuminated by lantern flames that danced with the gentle breeze. The soft murmur of voices blended with the river's steady flow, creating a symphony both soothing and alive. Children darted between adults, their laughter muted but present, like ripples across still water. The elder who had given me the lantern walked beside me, her steps sure and measured. She shared stories of the festival, how it was more than just a night of light, but a ceremony of healing and release. "Each lantern carries a part of us," she explained. "A sorrow, a hope, a memory we cannot hold within ourselves any longer. We set them afloat so the river can carry them beyond, transforming what weighs heavy into something lighter." Her words settled in me like a gentle tide, matching the rhythm of the river that had shaped this village's heart for generations. I looked down at the lantern in my hands, its paper walls thin and almost translucent, the candle inside flickering with a fragile glow. It felt like a vessel not just of light, but of intention, an offering to the river and to the night. Around us, the village transformed into a living mosaic of light and shadow. Lanterns were lit carefully, one by one, their flames catching the breeze and holding steady. The flickers multiplied, mirroring stars overhead and creating a bridge between earth and sky. The sounds of the festival were soft but rich, the crackle of matches, the murmur of prayers, the occasional sigh carried on the wind. I found a spot at the water's edge, where the current slowed and the river widened like an open palm. The surface was a canvas of reflections, the glowing lanterns, the silhouettes of trees, the first hints of moonlight emerging from behind clouds. The elder nodded toward the river, inviting me to set my lantern down gently. My fingers trembled as I lowered it to the water, feeling the coolness of the river's edge seep into my skin. The lantern floated, bobbing slightly as the current caught it and began to carry it away. I watched as it joined a procession of lights moving steadily downstream, each one a silent message sent forth into the unknown. The village's laughter and song softened into a peaceful quietude, the river's voice rising to fill the space with a timeless song. Nearby, a group of children released their lanterns with wide-eyed wonder. One little girl whispered to her friend that the lights were like tiny fireflies, only meant to fly on water. Another boy spoke softly about the lanterns carrying wishes to the moon, where they could be kept safe until morning. Their innocence wove through the night, a reminder that the festival was as much about hope as it was about release. The elder shared more stories as we stood side by side, her words painting the river as a living thread that connected the past, present, and future. The river listens, she said. And it never forgets. What we send on its current is transformed. Not lost but changed into something new. Her eyes reflected the lantern light, shining with a quiet certainty that felt both ancient and immediate. As the night deepened, the village's gathering grew stiller, the lanterns drifting farther along the river's path. The soft glow of candles mingled with the dark water, creating a moving constellation that seemed to pulse with life. I felt a presence in the stillness, a shared breath held between all who had come to this place seeking peace. The lantern in my hands was now a symbol, a fragile flame carrying the weight of what I had brought with me, and the lightness I hoped to find. The river's embrace felt tender, as if it accepted my offering willingly, promising to carry it safely beyond sight. The moment held a sacred hush, a space where the ordinary was touched by the extraordinary. Around me, the villagers moved with a gentle grace, their actions deliberate and filled with intention. The ritual was a dance of humility and reverence, a recognition of the delicate balance between holding on and letting go. Shadows flickered on faces lined with stories, and in every glance exchanged there was a silent understanding. This was more than tradition. It was a shared journey of the heart. The river's surface mirrored the sky's deepening indigo, each lantern's light a beacon against the encroaching darkness. The scent of jasmine and damp earth lingered, mingling with the warmth of the flickering flames. The elders' stories wove through the night like the river's current, carrying with them a sense of continuity and belonging. As my lantern drifted away, carried by the gentle flow, I felt a quiet release settle within me. The festival was no longer just a spectacle to observe but a ritual to participate in, a communion with the river, the village, and the unspoken parts of myself. The night held me in its embrace, a soft promise of healing carried in the light of countless small flames. The river's song continued, a steady undercurrent beneath the murmur of voices and the rustle of leaves. The lanterns formed a moving constellation, a living map of intention and memory traveling toward a horizon unseen but deeply felt. In that shared moment I understood that the festival was an offering, not just to the river, but to the heart of life itself. As the lanterns drifted gently downstream, I found myself drawn toward a group of children gathered near the riverbank, their small hands releasing tiny boats that bobbed and danced like fireflies on the water's surface. Their faces were illuminated by the soft glow, eyes wide with wonder and voices hushed with the awe of participation. One girl, no older than 8, held a lantern shaped like a blooming lotus, whispering a wish she barely dared to voice aloud. Nearby, a boy with a mop of unruly hair told me that his lantern carried a secret, one he planned to share only with the river and the stars. Watching them, I realized how deeply the festival threaded together the generations, weaving a tapestry of memory and hope. The children's innocent reverence was a living bridge, connecting the weight of history with the lightness of future dreams. Their laughter, soft and fleeting, mingled with the murmur of the water, a quiet celebration of life's unspoken continuity. Among the villagers stood Anara, the storyteller and keeper of the village's heritage. She moved with a calm grace, her presence both grounding and radiant. Dressed in a cloak woven with patterns reminiscent of flowing water and blossoming flowers, she carried a lantern larger than most, its paper walls adorned with symbols of renewal and remembrance. Catching my gaze, she beckoned me closer with a gentle nod. We settled beneath a willow whose branches dipped low, brushing the river's surface, as Anara began to share the deeper meanings of the festival. Her voice was soft but steady, carrying the cadence of countless evenings like this one. "This night is more than light set adrift," she said. "It is a letting go of what holds us back, grief, regrets, sorrows unspoken. Each lantern is a vessel for healing, a symbol that we are not alone in our burdens." She spoke of the river as a living thread that carried stories from the past into the future, transforming sadness into hope. "As the lanterns float, so do our hearts," she explained. "We honor those who have gone before us, we release what we cannot carry, and we open ourselves to the possibility of renewal." Her words wove through the night air like a sacred song, grounding the ritual in a shared understanding that transcended words. Around us, the community moved in quiet harmony, lighting their lanterns with deliberate care. The flames flickered in the cool breeze, creating a constellation of gentle lights that seemed to pulse with collective intention. Anara's eyes shone in the lantern light as she guided a young mother who was hesitating to release her lantern. "It is okay to hold on for a moment," she said softly. But when you let go, you let the river carry it, and in doing so you carry yourself forward. The ritual began in earnest as families and friends stepped together to the river's edge. Lanterns were set afloat one by one, each a tender offering to the current. The river accepted them gracefully, cradling the fragile flames and carrying them onward with a steady, unwavering flow. The procession of light stretched along the water, a moving mosaic of hope and remembrance. I noticed a quiet exchange between an elderly man and a teenager, their hands meeting briefly as the younger one took a lantern decorated with a painted phoenix. The elder smiled, eyes misted with memories, and whispered something I could not hear but felt deeply. It was a moment of passing down, of stories, resilience, and the unspoken bond that knits a community together. The air was thick with a sense of shared humanity, a collective breath held in reverence. The festival did not boast of spectacle or grandeur. Instead, its power lay in simplicity and presence. The lanterns, fragile and fleeting, carried the weight of human experience, joy, sorrow, hope, and forgiveness, set afloat on the river's endless journey. Anara's words lingered in my mind as I watched the lanterns drift away. We carry each other, she said. Not just in memory, but in every act of kindness, every moment of understanding. This night reminds us that healing is a river, ever flowing, ever renewing. Around us, the village seemed to breathe with that truth. The river's song a steady undercurrent beneath the soft murmur of voices. Children clustered nearby, their eyes reflecting the lanterns like tiny mirrors. One boy pointed excitedly at a cluster of lights and declared they were stars that fell to visit us. A little girl sat quietly, tracing the patterns on her lantern, her fingers gentle and deliberate. Their innocence and wonder added a layer of magic to the night, a reminder that the festival was as much about embracing the future as it was about honoring the past. The river, steady and patient, carried the glowing lanterns beyond sight, transforming them into a moving tapestry of light that pulsed with life. Each flicker was a story, a wish, a piece of a collective heart set free. The water's surface caught the moonlight, scattering silver and gold in a dance that felt both timeless and immediate. As the procession of lanterns moved downstream, the community gathered closer, sharing smiles and quiet embraces. The festival had woven us into a single thread, a fabric of shared experience that transcended individual sorrow and joy. Anara's presence was a steady beacon, her stories and guidance a reminder that the festival was a living ritual, a circle of healing and hope that bound the village to the river and the stars. The night air hummed with a gentle energy, a pulse of gratitude and connection that rose softly from the gathering. The lanterns, carried by the river's current, became more than light. They were a manifestation of the human spirit, fragile, luminous, and profoundly resilient. In their glow, I saw the village's heart reflected back at me, steady and bright against the dark. As I stood among the villagers watching the lanterns move as one, I felt a deep sense of belonging. The festival was not just a moment in time but an ongoing story, one of healing, remembrance, and the quiet strength found in shared ritual. The river carried our stories onward, and in that flow I understood that we were all part of something greater, connected by the light we released into the night. Kneeling at the river's edge, I cupped my hands around the small lantern, feeling the warmth of the candle's flame flickering against my skin. The current was steady here, gentle enough to cradle the fragile vessel without haste, carrying it slowly onward. As I released it, the lantern floated with a soft bob, joining the procession of lights that shimmered like scattered stars drifting toward the horizon. In that quiet moment, I reflected on the weight I had placed inside this simple paper boat, thoughts and memories held close, sorrows I had carried too long, and hopes I dared to nurture. Setting the lantern afloat was more than an act of ritual. It was a surrender, an acceptance of the flow that moves through all things seen and unseen. The river became a mirror, reflecting not only the glowing lanterns, but the unspoken connections that bind us all. Each lantern moved with its own rhythm, distinct yet part of the larger current. Some floated steadily, their flames unwavering despite the night breeze. Others wavered, dipping close to the water before righting themselves again. Together they formed a living constellation, a mosaic of light that spoke of individual stories converging in a shared journey. The river carried them forward with patience and grace, a silent witness to the unfolding tapestry. Around me, villagers watched their own lanterns drift away, eyes soft with introspection. There was a knowing in their stillness, a shared understanding that these floating lights were more than symbols. They were extensions of the heart, fragile yet resilient. The ritual created a space where words were unnecessary, where presence and intention spoke volumes. I noticed a young woman standing nearby, her gaze fixed on a lantern adorned with delicate brushstrokes of cherry blossoms. She held her breath as it floated past, her fingers tracing the air as if reaching for a memory. Beside her, an older man clasped a weathered photo, his lantern bobbing gently in the current. Their silent communion underscored the festival's power to bridge time and experience. The river's surface was a canvas of reflections, the glowing lanterns mingling with the moon's pale light and the silhouettes of swaying trees. The water's gentle murmur wove through the night, a constant thread beneath the soft chorus of voices. In this shared stillness, the village seemed united by an unspoken promise to carry each other's burdens and joys, to honor the cycles of letting go and embracing anew. I allowed my gaze to follow the lanterns as they drifted downstream, each one a flickering beacon against the dark water. Some moved swiftly, caught by a stronger current. Others lingered near the shore, bobbing softly before continuing their journey. The diversity of their paths mirrored the complexity of human experience, each story unique, yet flowing toward a common horizon. As the procession stretched farther along the river, I felt a profound connection to the unseen threads tying us together. The festival was not merely a moment of release, but a reminder of the enduring bonds that sustain us through change. The glow of the lanterns was a language of light, speaking of hope, healing, and the courage to face what lies ahead. Nearby, a group of villagers sat quietly on the grassy bank, their faces illuminated by the lantern's gentle glow. They shared stories in whispers, memories sparked by the flickering lights. One elder recounted the festival's origins, a tale of ancestors who first set lanterns afloat as a prayer for safe passage through hardship. Listening, I felt the weight of history settle softly around us, grounding the night's ritual in a timeless continuum. The children, too, were absorbed in the moment, some chasing after lanterns that had returned to shore, others tracing patterns in the sand as the river carried their hopes away. A boy with bright eyes told me he believed the lanterns were like paper birds, soaring on the water's wings to places beyond sight. His wonder was contagious, a gentle reminder that meaning often blooms in simple acts of faith. As I sat back on the soft earth, the coolness of the night wrapped around me like a comforting shawl. The river's song filled the space between heartbeats, steady and true. I closed my eyes briefly, breathing in the scents of jasmine and moss, feeling the presence of the village, the river, and the night converge in a moment of quiet grace. The lanterns continued their journey, a slow procession of light moving toward the unknown. Some would reach open waters, carried far beyond the village's reach. Others would circle back, guided by gentle tides to rest once more on familiar shores. In their movement I saw a metaphor for life itself, an ebb and flow of letting go and returning, of loss and renewal. Around me a soft hum began to rise, a collective breath held and released in unison. It was a song without words, a resonance of gratitude and presence that filled the night air. The villagers' faces glowed with peaceful smiles, their souls touched by the shared ritual. The river's current carried not just lanterns, but the unseen light of many hearts entwined. I rose slowly, walking along the water's edge, feeling the cool sand beneath my feet. The moon had climbed higher, its silver light mingling with the warm glow of the lanterns. A lone musician played a soft melody nearby, the notes drifting like a gentle breeze, weaving seamlessly into the river's song. I paused at a small wooden bridge, watching the lanterns pass beneath, their reflections rippling with each gentle sway. A woman sitting quietly beside me spoke softly of the festival's meaning, a reminder to slow down, to honor the cycles of life, and to embrace the quiet moments that often go unnoticed. Her words echoed the sentiments I had felt growing within me throughout the evening. That healing and connection arise not from grand gestures, but from simple acts of presence and surrender. As the night deepened, the lanterns thinned out, their lights scattering like diamonds across the water. Some drifted toward the open sea beyond the river's mouth, while others returned to the village's embrace. The river, ever patient, carried them all with gentle hands, a guardian of stories and light. I found a place on a driftwood bench, the rough wood warm from the day's sun. Sitting there, I watched the final lanterns shimmer and fade, their glow mingling with the stars overhead. The night wrapped around me like a familiar cloak, and a profound sense of peace settled in my chest. The ritual had asked only for one thing: to rest, to release, and to trust in the flow. The village around me grew still, the soft voices hushed as the festival drew to its quiet moments. The river's song remained constant, a lullaby that promised safety and renewal. I closed my eyes, feeling the lantern's light carry my thoughts into the deep, warm current of the night, where rest and healing awaited. As the night deepened, the procession of lanterns grew thinner, their soft lights drifting like gentle echoes across the dark river. The village began to disperse slowly, families and friends retreating to their homes with quiet smiles and softened hearts, their footsteps hushed on the winding paths beneath ancient trees. The festival's glow remained, lingering like a warm breath against the cool air, a tender farewell whispered between earth and sky. I lingered by the water's edge, watching the lanterns as they floated far beyond the village, their flames fragile yet steadfast against the gentle current. Some drifted toward the open sea, carried by the river's patient hands into vast unknowns, while others circled back, returning to embrace the familiar shores. The dance of light and water felt like a living poem, one of loss and hope, of endings that fold quietly into beginnings. A deep calm settled within me, woven from the river's steady song and the shared presence of the villagers who had gathered. The sense of belonging was profound, a quiet knowing that I was part of something enduring and true. The festival had offered more than a moment of ritual. It had gifted a space where rest was not just allowed but invited, where surrender became a gentle act of courage. The village itself seemed to mirror this calm, its lights dimming slowly as windows closed softly and doors were secured with tender care. The night wrapped around the homes like a protective blanket, the faint scent of jasmine and wood smoke lingering in the air as a final note of farewell. The river continued its endless flow, carrying with it the lanterns and the collective hopes of all who had set them adrift. I found a quiet bench carved from driftwood, its surface smooth and warm beneath my hands. Sitting there, I watched the last of the lanterns shimmer and fade into the distance, their glow mingling with the starlit sky above. The air was still, filled with a gentle hum of gratitude that seemed to rise from the earth itself, a silent song of connection and renewal. Nearby, Mara, the lighthouse keeper, moved along the pier with a quiet grace, her silhouette outlined by the soft lantern light. She gathered the few remaining lanterns close, guiding them away from rocks and snags with practiced hands, embodying the kindness and care that had shaped the evening. Her presence was a steady beacon, a reminder of the gentle watchfulness that holds the community safe. The river's voice rose and fell in a soothing rhythm, a lullaby that invited rest and reflection. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, the cool night air tinged with the scent of moss and distant pine. The festival's essence settled into my bones, a reminder that life's transience is met not with resistance, but with gentle acceptance and the courage to release. As the lanterns became mere flickers on the horizon, the village settled into a hush so profound it felt like the earth itself was breathing out. The stars above twinkled steadily, their light steady and true against the vast dark. The river carried on, a timeless current that bore the stories and hopes of generations, ever flowing toward horizons unseen but deeply felt. In that stillness I felt held by the river, by the village, by the night's tender embrace. The festival had taught me that rest was not an end but a beginning, a sacred pause in the ongoing dance of letting go and moving forward. The lanterns, though fragile and fleeting, had created a living tapestry of light and love that would ripple through the days to come. With the final flicker fading into the vastness, I sat quietly, surrendering to the calm that wrapped around me like a soft cloak. The river's song became my own heartbeat, steady and sure, carrying me gently into a peaceful sleep where dreams floated like lanterns on water, fragile, luminous, and full of promise.